Chicken Run Dawn of the Nuggets is a sequel to the beloved Chicken Run that was released 2000. It is apparently a comedy adventure. I did not know that it was a comedy adventure, but I can see now. There was a scene in that movie that was kind of funny, but also kind of jazzy. Okay. Don't care if I die. That was a good ass song and it was catchy. Okay. This is for the people that have already seen Chicken Run. To simplify real quick with Chicken Run, Chicken Run was a movie about this chicken named Ginger. She was trying to help her friends escape this chicken farm. She then meets a Rocky who apparently flew to her chicken coop. Didn't necessarily fly. He was launched out of a cannon, but decided to help Ginger because she was about to, the other people that went for Rocky was coming back to find him. Yeah, she was gonna snitch. Yep. But he helped her in regards to these chickens trying to fly, knowing that he himself did not fly and or can't fly as well. He can't fly. He's a rooster. But trying to believe that they can. And then eventually he was just going to leave. He stayed for a little too long, got emotionally attached. He then eventually does dig his way out and leave. Ginger eventually comes to the idea of making a plane. They make a plane. They leave. That's just the previous movie. If you didn't see it, as a little simplified version of it, see that before you see this. Let's go ahead and get into Chicken Run Dawn of the Nuggets and why I think it is just a good movie. It's just a good movie, a good sequel, and that's just all it is. I think it's just a good sequel. Let's just get into Chicken Run Dawn of the Nuggets. We first start off continuing from where they left off, being on this little island in the middle of nowhere, really. Like, we don't really necessarily know where they live, but it's on this cute little island. And they've made a whole civilization. Like, all the chickens that have escaped now have kids, now have grown up. They have houses, they have food, water, all of that. It's really cool. I saw the background, the behind the scenes, and the sets are pretty big. Like, they went into detail in regards to this, and it shows. I love that they got most of the voice cast back. I will say there is a noticeable difference in regards to Ginger and Rocky and stuff, but it's not that bad. I feel like the voice actors who are doing it did a phenomenal job. Like, I really could barely tell, if I'm being honest, when I watched the trailer. Barely noticeable. Loved it. Her and Rocky now have a baby named Molly, who is a little bit of an adventurer herself. Molly eventually asked to go to the mainland since she's kind of like looking around. She's like, oh, what's over there? And she wants to go. But Ginger then has a flashback to what happened previously when she was on the mainland. And it wasn't so pretty. It was very terrible. It was horrific. Love they showed the flashback. Gorgeous. Ginger then notices trees getting cut down and roads being built. She then notices a truck taking chickens to apparently a chicken farm. Then she hosts a meeting because now everybody needs to know. She announces that everybody will be hiding, which is a lot different compared to how she was in the previous movie. But to be fair, in the previous movie, she was trying to escape a chicken farm. So this makes more sense that she would want to hide. She has a family now. There's a whole civilization of her chicken, her peers, all of that, houses, and it's calm and peaceful. So yeah, I see why she wouldn't want to really bother with that. Understood. Molly and Ginger then have a fight a little bit later on and doesn't really end up so well. Molly then puts into words that she is missing one thing.
Freedom.
And it was so sad to hear that because it's like Ginger has been fighting for freedom. So it's like to know that her daughter feels like she doesn't have freedom. It's kind of sad. It's very sad. She then eventually sneaks out and she heads to the mainland. Ginger quickly notices and tries to run after her. Molly gets to the mainland and meets this other chicken named Frizzle, which the moment I heard her name, I'm like, Miss Frizzle, is that you?
Seatbelts, everyone!
And I immediately, you realize that she has more of a Scottish accent. I know it's not that like important or anything, but I just noticed that so quickly. You realize a lot of these chickens have different accents. Love it. Love it. We love diversity. Okay? Both Frizzle and Molly get on the chicken bus and taken to the chicken farm. During this, Ginger and Rocky and the gang follow her and realize very soon this happy chicken farm is actually a big ass slaughterhouse. That's pretty much what it is. It's pretty much what it is, a big ass slaughterhouse. Okay, it is a whole jail, like a prison. It is under surveillance, everything. It is wild. And when I realized we got to only 20 minutes in this movie, y'all, it's only been 20 minutes. I will say that is one con that I do have about this movie is that it is a little bit fast paced. Like a lot of things kind of happen within that time frame. Like the baby's born, they grow up to whatever age they're going to be for the rest of this movie. You notice that things are happening outside of their little island, and the child wants to be free and go and check it out. So she does. So a lot of this is pretty fast paced, I will say, because I also realized it's an hour and 41 minutes, and at least an hour of this is them just going in for the rescue. I realized that so quickly. Like, goddamn. But all right, make it an interesting rescue. So we then get back to Molly and Frizzle. When they get there, they are brought to a happy chicken farm, which truly looks like just like a small theme park, if I'm being honest. It looks pretty cute, I will say. But you realize pretty soon that it's kind of creepy. And we'll get there very soon. We are then brought back to Ginger and the gang, and they're pretty much just trying to figure out a plan to get Molly out. They brought everybody that we know and love from the original into this, because let's be honest, there's only a few people that stood out in the first one that are now in this still, and they're brought in as like the kind of the collective, the main people in this, the gang, you know. They're the main people. Even the rats. Love the rats. They were great in the first one, so now they are brought back. Love them. As we see the chickens having fun, we're presented to a mysterious person who seems to be observing the chickens and realizes one of the chickens, who is Frizzle, stumbled upon something they shouldn't have. They also realize they don't have a collar. At this point, we are presented to Mr. Fry. You'll figure out that's the name of him, but his name is Mr. Fry. He's pretty goofy looking, if I'm being honest. I'm not gonna lie. He seemed like a very goofy character. You know, got a little side hair or whatever. Like, you know, like he's very goofy, but he's a scientist, very intelligent, very smart. Frizzle then gets caught and now has a collar that controls her and makes her happy and dumb. Molly then notes that something's up and then heads out to figure out what's happening. We are now shown to Dr. Fry with an investor, Reginald Smith. I did not know that was his name originally. He did say it, but apparently the Dr. Fry calls him Dr. Eats-A-Lot. That's just their company name, but my guy, come on now. You're supposed to be smart. Come on now. Come on now. In this process, Molly sees the video with them and is shocked at what she sees. They did a little cute cartoon. I will say I did like the cartoon. It gives very old cartoony vibes. Kind of like Bewitched. Kind of like that vibe, but with color. Love it. But showing that science can make chickens happy and tastier. She takes her time coming down the stairs. I'm going to be honest with you. Apparently this was a hard part to film for behind the scenes. Because I also did see the behind the scenes. I was chilling. I was like, okay, all right, cool. Behind the scenes. Apparently this was a hard thing to film for them, which is showing her walking down the stairs. But the moment she gets down and they pan up, you realize who it is. Mrs. Tweedy. Apparently she decided to keep the last name. I don't know. But apparently her first name is Militia. I did not know that part. I did not know her name was Militia Tweedy. Makes sense because she's pretty malicious. Makes a lot of sense. But I just did not know that was her first name. Surprised me. She meets the investor and shows them what they're working on. Pretty much they have the chickens think once they're chosen, they've won a prize. And they get escalated up into a sun. Little do they know, it's to their demise. It's pretty sad. In the process, it seems like that's when they come up with the concept of fast food, which is pretty fun. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Fast food? Like, I think the investor says something like that. Like, oh, fast food. That's brilliant. Or whatever he says. I'm like, okay. It's pretty cool. Ginger then tries to get Molly out of there, but comes face to face with Mrs. Tweedy. I'm not gonna lie. The moment had me on my seat, girl. I promise you. Like, the moment she tries to get Molly out of there and she looks to the side, Mrs. Tweedy and her come to eye, and I'm like, Tweety realizes who this chicken is, which is so weird because if you know the designs of these chickens and all that stuff, it's like she's clearly still wearing her same hat and scarf and looks the same. She's kept with her figure. You know, so has Mrs. Tweedy. But it was so weird. I'm like, how do you know this is a specific chicken that you were trying to behead? But I guess they can also see the hat and stuff. I don't know. When it comes to their looks, I'm like, do you see the hat? Do you see the collars? What stuff? But she has a flashback. She realizes that's the chicken, and she tries to get her. Ginger then gets captured by Mrs. Tweedy and plans to serve her up in a bucket. I never mentioned this prior, but Rocky and the Rat's pretty much trying to save Molly too, but it feels more like a side thing if I'm being honest. They have their own little side quest, and it's there, but I just don't take much. I notice it. I think it's sort of like, it's kind of cool, whatever. It's just not like part of the main thing if I'm being honest. Like, it's there. They eventually come back together all together, but it's like I didn't know if it was worth mentioning, honestly. Everyone eventually realizes whose farm this is, being Mrs. Tweedy, and oh my god, they were shocked. Faces were like, oh my god. It was just something. It was just something. I loved it, truly. We go back to Mrs. Tweedy putting a happy collar on Ginger and forcing her to be happy. But Ginger fights back until she turns it up to 11. She's still fighting back, but you can tell eventually after a certain point it will wear on her. Rocky then makes his appearance and mates up with everyone else when he knocks them over like some bowling pins, because he does. He just slams into them. They all go tumbling down, okay? And then he distracts them by dancing, and homeboy, I give him this. He got some moves. Okay? Rocky knows how to dance. He was banging it up high. He was banging. Everyone eventually meets up, and since Ginger still has the collar, she goes on this thing and everyone follows her. I did not know what this was at first originally until I looked it up. Apparently it's a silo. They do eventually let them know, like they let you know what it is, but I'm like, let me see what this is prior, because I have an idea what it is, but I never knew the name. Y'all know, like on the farms there's like that tall thing that's just cylinder like. I was about to say something else. Y'all know what I was probably about to say. I'm not gonna say it, but y'all know what I mean. I did not know that was a silo. I thought that was just where the feed was, or grains and stuff, which apparently that is where the grains are, but I never knew what it was called. So they're in the silo. They all meet up. They have a little bit of an emotional thing. They got the collar off of Ginger. Max did. But then they come to a realization that they're trapped. Ginger, Molly, and even Rocky. Yes, he's here. He gets there too, because eventually he does separate for a second. When he was distracting them, but he gets back with them and he gets in there too. Yes. Have an emotional talk and comes to their conclusion that she shouldn't have boxed her in, and Molly's more like her mom than she thinks, which she is. She's very adventurous. I will give her that. Very emotional part. Wasn't too emotional, but it was cute. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I thought it was pretty emotional, but it was not. It was emotional. It was very cute. I was interested in it, and I was like, okay, cool. Just didn't hit as much as I thought it would, but it was still something. We come back to Mrs. Tweedy, and she's been informed that the chickens are in the corn silo. She then turns on the grinder so they can be ground up. She said, you know what? You don't want to become chicken? I'll grind you up instead. I was like, oh, darling. Rocky and Ginger then come up with the idea to make the corn into popcorn, and Molly lights the fuse with glasses like earlier in the movie, and they popcorn their way out of the silo, which is pretty cool. I was like, all right, cool, nice. Also another side note, there's a snail that makes me immediately think of Flushed Away. Yeah, Flushed Away, the snails. Yes. All right, cool. If you don't, we might do a review on that one. They're about to make their escape, and side note, the artwork of the view of their home is gorgeous. I promise y'all, it is gorgeous. Loved it. Masterpiece. There's a pause, and Ginger comes to the realization that she's gonna go back to save not just Frizzle, but the chickens as well. And she has this cute little speech. I don't know why I said cut. This cute little speech about chickens and an island, stuff like that. It was very cute, very adorable. They then come up with a plan to get chickens out, and everyone is on board. They start their plan, but run back into Mrs. Tweedy, who turns on the collars, and then chaos breaks out when they're trying to get the button. It is a whole thing, y'all. I promise y'all. I was like, oh, all right, cool. I will say I did enjoy the music playing. It was cute, and there was one, oh my god, y'all. There was one moment with Babs. I kid y'all not. The music is playing and like it's like a holiday music. And if you know the first one, she would always say something about oh, what, we going on holiday or something like that. And she would still do it in this movie too. So I feel like that's what that was referring to when they played that music. It's like, let's get a song playing in regards to her saying this whole holiday thing. It was cute. It was enjoyable. I loved it. I'd probably download it if I'm being honest with y'all. But there's a moment in this where there's a moment with Babs having on the shrub that they were using to hide, and it just looks like an afro whilst she was singing along. It was just funny. So for me personally, I enjoyed that scene. That was comedic right there. I loved it. Loved it completely. All the chickens then head to the escalator to get cooked, and the gang tries to stop them. Whilst this is happening, Ginger, Rocky, and Mrs. Tweedy are still fighting over the button. Molly comes up with a plan to help her parents get the button, but Mrs. Tweedy grabs her and realizes that Molly is Ginger's baby, which is like, oh my god. I mean, to be fair, she does look similar to her mother, so it makes sense how she could put two and two together. Ginger then pushes the button, which stops chicken from going into the cooker. Rocky gets the axe from Mrs. Tweedy, and Molly gets saved by Ginger, who gets saved by Rocky. I know, they're hanging off a cliff. Insane. As Mrs. Tweedy was about to make them plummet into the cooker, Ginger realizes where that axe was and says her iconic line, "Bye-bye," again.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment.
Loved it. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Mrs. Tweedy then gets knocked out with the axe and plummets into her invention, again getting cooked. Yes, if you've seen the first one, this is like a do-over, pretty much. Like it's happened first time, we're doing it again. The chickens then escape in the Sir Eat-A-Lot mobile and heads for freedom, whilst Mrs. Tweedy comes out looking crispy. Yeah, because she was looking real crispy too. Real crispy. She was cooked. Okay, so with this one right here, I don't know how she does this because they're moving really fast. They are coming off of a hill technically, and it's a little bit more of a spiral hill, but I don't know how Mrs. Tweedy does this, but she gets on top of the van. Y'all, she is a distance away. I don't know how fast she can run, but she was determined, all right? Got that axe in hand and was ready to cook up some chicken. She was like, y'all ain't getting away from me, all right? Father comes down and kicks Mrs. Tweedy off the van into her own moat. Yeah, she got a moat with the ducks and stuff. Yeah. And they all escape with a nice Mad Max explosion at the end. I know, it was insane. She gets exploded. The whole thing gets exploded. Just crazy. I love it. I loved it. They then make it back home where all is well. However, they end off by heading out to save another batch of chickens. And when I tell y'all, they end off with saying cock-a-doodle-doo. It was really cute. I will say, I do love the ending song to this. The ending song to this, let me tell you about my little baby. Love the song. I had to download it. Yes, it was downloadable. I love a lot of music, and that was one of them. I probably need to go back and check out that other music because that was a cute little song. The holiday song, it was cute. Gotta check it out. I do have some pros and cons with this. Not many. A lot more pros and cons. I think the only con really that was the big thing for me was that it was just a little bit fast paced. I will say it was kind of moving pretty quickly. Like we could have stayed on this little island for a little bit longer. I would have enjoyed it. Got a little bit more oomph because she kind of grew up very fast in our eyes. So there's that. So yeah, the fast pace, but then also I will say it also feels like they did use the same thing like they did in the first one. Instead of breaking out of a chicken farm, they just went into a chicken farm to rescue. So it's like they said, you know what? We did this the first time. We're gonna do it for my child and get my child out and Rocky. But then we're gonna make this into a thing. We're gonna go save chickens. So yeah, I mean, it feels like they kind of just did the same thing like they did in the first one, but kind of reversed it. So instead of breaking out, they're breaking in, which is not bad. It's just I really did kind of hope there would be a little bit something different, just a smidge. Still excited. I was still excited for it. I still loved it. I loved that they got voice actors that still sounded like the original voice cast. I think most of the people that were in the first one did come back. I think the only noticeable differences were Ginger and Rocky. You can kind of immediately tell that there was a difference, but it's not enough to where it would deter you from watching, at least in my opinion. I feel like the voice acting was still there, if I'm being honest. Like, they got someone closest to the voices, and I enjoyed it, honestly. I do love that they still use claymation. Gorgeous with that one. I loved it. Because when I tell y'all, when they did the Chicken Run 2 and I heard about it, I wasn't really sure if they were going to stick to that. So knowing that they stuck with it, loved it. Love that they stuck with the stop motion. I think they did use some CGI to clean up some things, but if you look at the behind the scenes, oh my gosh, like the landscapes, everything, like they put their foot into this, okay? Loved it. It was gorgeous. The background, all of that stuff, it took time, and you can definitely tell. And so, yeah, I think for me personally, this was just a good sequel. I don't think it was all that. I do feel like, you kind of had an idea of where things were going to go, how things were going to kind of end a little bit. This just felt like it was just more so for the people who watched the original. And I feel like they did it justice, not like Megamind. I feel like Megamind, they fucked that shit up. I haven't even seen it, and I only saw the trailer. My God. So, yeah, I feel like they did justice. I feel like they did pretty good with the sequel, to where it's like similar to like Hocus Pocus 2 or Disenchanted, where those were good sequels. I feel like they did it similar to that, where it's like we didn't want to do too much, but we didn't want to make it bad, okay, for the people who grew up watching this. We wanted to make sure that it was serviceable, that it was good, at least. And I feel like they did that, and I truly enjoyed myself. This is my first ever review. I know there's going to be a lot of cutting, this, that, and the third, a lot of trimming I'm going to have to do. So hopefully I can do that. Hopefully it comes off seamlessly a little bit. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I will try to do another review. We're going to try to do reviews on this channel. The next one I'm probably going to do is either Kraken, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, or Migration. I'm doing those two. I just got to figure out which one I'm going to do first. Apparently my main channel wants to do the Kraken one, which I don't know why I want to do that, but y'all just don't like me, apparently. Y'all just don't like me, because y'all know that sucked, giving my opinions already. And if you'd like to check me out on any of my social media, it's going to be creations_reacts on Instagram and GLKV_creations on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and dip out. I need to go to work. Deuces, pieces, Reese's Pieces. Bye.